Howdy neighbor, how is your garden growing? Me in my garden? Well, I am thinking about what do I need to plant? What do I need to take out? What are all the tips and the things that we should be thinking about for the summer? So whether you live in North, Central, or South Florida, we're gonna be talking about the food and flowers and tips for you guys. So this is gonna be probably a pretty long one. So make sure that you grab your planner so you can put together your plan. There's lots of tips and notes in there. And if you don't have the planner, you can always grab one at wildfloridian.net/planner or grab a notebook, pen, paper, because you're gonna wanna take notes. I'm also gonna put chapters so that you can jump around to the different things that you might wanna consider doing or come back to them for reference as you're going through the summertime. Now, I wanna make sure I get this out of the way really quickly, which is that what is summer? Because I know so many of you are just like me and feel like fall technically starts when school starts back up, right around like August, right? Are you like that? But technically, summer, what I'm gonna be talking you guys through is basically the end of June, so like June 20th through September 21st. So mostly what we're gonna be talking about today is July, August, and September, which feels kind of crazy, but that's technically summer. So I wanna make sure we're all on the same page as we go ahead and we get a game plan of what we're gonna be doing during this time period. And here in Florida, whether you live in North, Central, or South Florida, there's kind of 4 characteristics that everyone would agree define summer here. It's hot, it's humid, it rains a lot, and the sun is super intense, which is gonna play into what crops, what flowers we're gonna be planting throughout this time period. So let's talk vegetables. And first, let's focus on warm weather crops. These are the crops that I know are so many of y'all's favorites. We're talking tomatoes, sweet peppers, corn, beans, squashes, cucumbers. Those are warm weather crops. And summer is both the beginning and the end, or actually the end and the beginning of warm weather crops. So early in the season for summer, warm weather crops are coming out. Whether you live in North, Central, or South, if you've gotten to June or early July, a lot of those warm weather crops, any that are in full sun, are typically really stressed out and need to come out. You're starting to see a lot of bug activity, stink bugs, mold issue, white flies, like it just runs the gamut. And what I would recommend is at the beginning of the season, like don't fight what's happening, just let it go. That might have so many of you bummed out because you just started gardening in spring. And if you did, that's okay. We're gonna take that frown, we're gonna turn it upside down, because all of my people who have been hanging out with me for years, they know what I'm gonna tell them right now, which is, yes, warm weather crops are ending, but in summer, we're also getting ready to restart them. So after you're removing crops and you're so sad that you didn't get as much harvest, or maybe you didn't have it in the right location, the next thing I want you to do for your warm weather crops is, let's take some notes. What varieties worked really well for you? What maybe got too much sun? What maybe got not enough water? Maybe you needed to fertilize a little bit more often so that you could get better harvest. Take a second, make those notes. Because once you're done taking those notes, you're gonna turn around and start ordering seeds. Yeah, that's right. With warm weather crops, whether it's late July, August, or September, you're gonna be restarting warm weather crop seedlings. So we wanna make sure we understand what worked, what didn't work, and what we would do differently, because we get to do it all over again, like right now. So when it comes to timing with your warm weather crops, it's gonna be all about restarting seedlings. So the way I think about it is order your seeds in June or early July. For most of the state, late July, August is when we're gonna restart things like our tomatoes, our eggplants, all that good stuff. If you're in South Florida, I would push a little bit later into August, go mid-August, late August for starting your first seedlings, which means if you do that in that timing, that late July through August timing, that means you're gonna be up potting about 4 weeks later. So August, September, make a note that you should be up potting your plants, and then you're gonna be transplanting about 6 weeks later, somewhere in that 4 to 6 weeks later. So that means for North Florida and Central Florida, you can be planting your tomatoes, your sweet peppers, late August, early September, which is great because we're starting to head out some of the highest temperatures of the year and into cooler temperatures. Now, you may not have had any success, or you're looking for some new ideas on warm weather crops that you could be growing. And what's really cool is I just sat with all of my members and we sat and talked about what seeds are we going to be ordering. And here is a bit of that list so that you can consider, as you're buying seeds, grabbing some of these varieties that have been successful not only for me, but for others too. When it comes to tomatoes and heading into the fall season, one of the big differences versus our spring season is while we can still focus on things like Everglades tomatoes, which everyone seems to have a lot of success with. Grape tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, yellow pear tomatoes, sun golds and sun sweets that you guys all told me about, and I tried this year and they did really well. All these tomatoes are what I would call your small tomatoes. They're grape-sized tomatoes or smaller, and they do really well in spring and in fall. So you can go ahead and pick up varieties for those type, both at places like Southern Exposure, but you can also grab seed packets from places like Barry Morris and Burpee. What's also nice about these plants is that oftentimes things like the grape tomatoes or Sweet 100 or Sweet Million type varieties, you can also sometimes find plants already started at like your Home Depots, Lowe's, if they sell those plants. But I would not be planting them out in the early part of the summer season, like July and August. I would be waiting till like later in August and September for actually putting them in the ground. The challenging thing is a lot of those stores don't tend to sell the plants at that time of the year, or if they do, they sell them like in really large containers, which aren't as price effective. But if you're trying these things for the first time, it can actually be a great way for you just to get started with those plants. Now, when it comes to me and what tomatoes I'm going to be starting, I'm going to go with ones that I know are tried and true, and I'm going to be focusing on larger tomatoes in the fall season. And what I mean by larger tomatoes, I'm thinking about anything that's going to be more than 4 ounces. So 4 ounces is going to be a tomato about that size. But if you're thinking about getting into 4 ounces, 8 ounces, a whole pound, like that's what kind of tomato we're thinking about, this is the better season. And it's kind of counterintuitive. And the reason is because it's really hot, there's lots of bugs, it's really hard to grow things at this time of year. But if we get these plants started right, by the time they're making tomatoes, it's starting to cool down, but it's still warm enough for a tomato, but the bug pressure starts to go down, the humidity starts to go down, and it creates more ideal conditions for getting those big chunky tomatoes. And the type of tomatoes that I find so much success with, and the last couple years I've had huge harvest with, is number one is 4th of July hybrid tomatoes. This is a Burpee brand tomato, and I've harvested easily 70 pounds last year. This year was a little bit less because I flipped them back here, but we've gotten probably 20 pounds easily off of this one. So if you want to get these ones, you can find them online. Just Google 4th of July hybrid Burpee seeds and you can just buy packets. And a lot of times I find them at Home Depot, Lowe's, Target, Walmart in their seed area. You can grab them there too. So on my seed starting propagation list, I'm going to definitely be putting 4th of July hybrid, and another variety that I bought a plant last year, but this year I started it by seed, and the tomatoes were way bigger. And that was gonna be a purple Cherokee tomato. I got the seeds from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange online, and those ones went from being, I would say 6 ounces tomatoes last year to almost a pound, and that was growing them in the springtime. So in the spring, I was fighting a lot of the bugs were getting to them a little bit earlier than I would, so I had to start picking them really early, just at the faintest sign that they were light green, in order to ensure that the bugs didn't completely chew them out, or a possum or a raccoon or whoever it was who was getting to them. But I was still able to get a really good harvest, which has got me more confident and excited to plant them this year. And one of the key differences I'm definitely going to be doing is I'm going to put them back here this year for the fall season, because when they're in the front, I just don't walk through that garden as often. But back here, I'm out here multiple times a day at a minimum with the dogs. So for me, I'm thinking purple Cherokees for back here. And I'm gonna be adding that to my seed starting list so that at the end of July, I'm already getting those seeds going. Now, there were other seed varieties that I tried and they seemed like they might be doing well, but we had a lot of different challenges early this year up in the front trellises. So I wanna definitely consider retrying Tropic VFN as my tomato for up front. Also recommended from one of my members, Bobby. She was definitely into green zebra tomatoes, so that might be one that you want to try out too. And I would love for those who've already had success, especially with those bigger tomatoes, what varieties would you recommend all of our Florida gardeners try this season? Now let's talk peppers and what you should be considering adding to your garden. And this one, I've got an easy cheat code, because if you were getting overwhelmed at the idea of starting seeds, this one you can just go to Home Depot or Lowe's and pick up this pepper, and that's banana peppers. These ones by Bonnie, not only have they worked well for me year after year, tons of my members and other people in this community have tried them and said, these have been the easiest peppers to grow. They actually have so many. And if you're looking for kind of the easy button with getting started with something this fall, go ahead and just buy some banana peppers and get them in the ground. Now for the summertime, for me, what I've been doing is using these sunflowers to give them a little bit of shade, but you can see they're getting a little bit leggy and the sunflowers are kind of fading out. So I'm gonna be chopping the sunflowers back and allowing these guys to get full sun. in this back garden. And I'm gonna tell you, they've done it before. They can get through the summer sun here in Florida. So if you were gonna get them now, you could go and transplant them. I would put them in a little bit of shade, like where they only get 4, maybe 6 hours of sun. But if you get them later in the season, you can go ahead and put them in your full sun locations where you're gonna grow your tomatoes, your lettuces, your onions, and all that stuff later on. So for me, I don't need to buy any more of these guys. These ones are doing really well, but there are these sweet peppers. I tried them before the hurricanes hit and I lost them all. I retried them. They just kind of sat there. I finally threw them out in beds up front and they're growing and they're starting to flower. So I don't really have a strong opinion of them, but you all were the ones who recommended them and have said you had so much success. So I'm gonna be retrying Charleston bell peppers from Southern Exposure and Carolina Wonder bell peppers. These ones are supposed to be similar to California Wonders, and if you're familiar with California Wonder bell peppers, these are like your classic green bell pepper that you would buy at the store. California Wonders are also the ones that when you see a sweet bell pepper at like a Home Depot and Lowe's, it's that one. I have never had great success with them. I'll get some peppers from them, but nothing like I will with like other types of peppers like Cubanelles, jalapenos, or the easy one, banana peppers. So you can try California Wonder. Others might come into the comment section and tell me different, that they've had a lot of success, but I haven't found them to be very successful. But everyone was telling me Carolina Wonder is where it's at. So I'm gonna retry them. I had some timing issues, so I think it was more of a me problem than the garden problem. And I would like to get more peppers for us this year. So I'm gonna be adding Carolina Wonder and Charleston bell peppers to my list. Some other recommendations that came from you guys, not from me, is shishito peppers. This one was just picked up from a Lowe's Home Depot, and we had people who had really good success with it. And one that I used to do a lot, and I didn't really do it this year, is ají dulce. This is a great one. You can pick up seeds from places like Southern Exposure, or you can go to a lot of times Latin markets and just actually get an ají dulce pepper. And what I found, and I was affirmed and I really felt good hearing this, is that they're great snacking peppers and I love them. I know usually they're listed as like seasoning peppers, like you're supposed to use them for cooking. They never really made it into any dishes for us. Like I just would grab them and eat them. I like the kick, the little bit of a spice that they have, but they're not too spicy. So those might be some other options when it comes to peppers. Now for those who are wanting to grow cucumbers, I haven't honestly grown cucumbers in a few years and I don't even have seeds. So I had to jog my memory, and when I did grow cucumbers, I just bought the ones that they had at Lowe's or Home Depot, so whatever that is, and they did fine when I planted them at the right time of year. But I did ask those in my community what ones they had success with, and this is what they recommended. There were multiple people who said Suyo Long cucumbers were very successful, along with Space Master cucumbers, and of course a classic burpless cucumber. I would hold off and do these a little bit later because their vines tend to be a little bit more pest prone, so we want to start them a little bit later. I wouldn't be doing these ones as early as I do my tomatoes and peppers. But another thing that I would consider doing kind of earlier in the season is going to be things like eggplant. And I have had an okay success with Black Beauty, though I had people telling me the ones that you just buy from the store, they actually had them be very successful. So something that's definitely worth, if you can find just like a plant at the store, like go ahead and grab the Black Beauties. For me, what I had the most success with is ping tongue. Ping tongue eggplants did great. They're a little bit longer, they're a little bit lighter in color, but when it came to cooking, we basically use them the same way we would use like kind of the classic Black Beauty eggplant. And you can pick up those seeds definitely at Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. And if I'm only listing Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, it's not because other places might not carry it. I just know that they focus on varieties that work in the South and have been tested in the South, including Florida. So there's a higher success rate. So I have a lot of confidence in it. But if you have other seed companies that have these and they work really well, go ahead and let us know, because I'm always open to trying stuff. I'm not committed or married to any of these companies, so I don't care who y'all recommend. So when it comes to cucumbers and eggplants, I do think I might try cucumbers. I still haven't settled in on a variety yet, and I'm gonna kind of hold off until I get a chance to draw everything out and see how much space I actually have, because cucumbers is one of those things that I want to make sure I have a better eye on, which means I need to have them in the back here and not up front. And I'm thinking about redoing the whole up front anyway. So I have to think through how I would actually get them in here and where I'd place them. So I'm not gonna add them to the list. Also, I'm not 100% sure what variety I'm gonna use, but if you have other varieties beyond what everyone recommended, definitely let me know. Eggplants, I think I'm gonna wait till springtime for those and not do them this fall. I don't have any particular reason. I just feel like everything else is gonna fill up with things that I'm gonna put as a higher priority. And that's one of the things as you're planning, whether you use my planner or something else, is prioritize and focus on the things that you know you're gonna use a lot of. And for me, I know we're gonna use a lot of tomatoes and peppers. We don't often use eggplants. We'll use them more when we have them come out of the garden, but if we didn't have a garden, honestly, we don't buy eggplants that often. So they go lower on my list. And it's similar with cucumbers. We don't tend to use as many cucumbers, though I eat a lot of pickles. So if you've got a good pickling cucumber, definitely drop it my way, because I, at times, can just become a pickle fiend and just blow through a whole jar of them like lickety split. So for me, I'm holding off on putting them on the list yet until I kind of can say what's eating up space. And then once I see that I maybe have some space left over, I'll prioritize cucumbers and then maybe eggplants. But there's something else I'm really excited and thinking I'm going to try this fall season, and that's going to be corn. I'm coming back around to corn. And one of the ones that for years I've had people recommending in the comment section is peaches and cream corn. This one I think comes out of Fairy Morris or Burpee. It's one of the seed packets that you can pick up at the Home Depots, the Lowe's, but you can also pick them up online. It's peaches and cream. Another one that was recommended was bodacious corn that comes out Southern Exposure, and these are both sweet corns. I really want to take my hand at trying them, and I really want to try them more for the fall season. And that's because if they can produce, I need to have them kind of producing more in the dry season than heading into the wet season. So I do want to allot a little bit of space to trying this out and having some fun with corn, but you know, I'm an Illinois girl. I was born there. My parents always are like, knee high by the 4th of July. So I kind of want to see how they would work here. So another thing that's a warm weather crop is going to be beans. And beans, we kind of switch away from those tropical yard-long beans that I feel like I've been talking about for months and months and months. Things like Puerto Rican black beans and just classic yard-long beans. Yes, those all were through the summer. But if you want to start having kind of more of the beans that you would buy at the store, the better chance to actually be able to grow things like that is in our late summer into fall season, which may have you going, if you've already started some of these tropical yard-long beans, like should you remove them? They'll grow well into the fall time period. I've had them go as late as August and September, and then usually the temperature starts to shift and then I pull them out anyways. So they're not necessarily that you need to remove them at this time of year, but if you want to get some of the other types started, like you want to try pintos and other types of beans. For me, one of the ones that I did that was more of a warm weather crop than a hot weather crop years ago were Cherokee Trail of Tears black beans. These ones were really good, not only for growing for the black bean part, but I actually used to eat them like fresh green beans straight out of the garden, which I know a lot of y'all probably like doing that. And that brand came from, who was it? It was one of the heritage ones. It wasn't Baker's Creek, someone else. I can't remember it. I'll go look and I'll put the name up right here so we don't have to hang out while I try to search back into my memory. And I found lots of different types of warm weather seeds like that can work better at that time, at this time of year. So planting them kind of more in that late July, August time period so that they're really producing come September and October and November. Something to consider. This is also a really good one if you want to help continue to drive nitrogen back into a garden bed or a garden trellis. And you can also consider getting into more of your bushing beans, because more of those tend to be more warm weather crops than tropical hot weather crops. I was just adding a few more notes of what I want to propagate this summer. And yes, the heat, the humidity. So before I get into more of the crops that you should consider buying seeds for and adding to your garden in the late summertime period, let's talk about some of the other tasks you're going to want to do for those warm weather crop areas that you're going to plant out. So one, make sure you're checking your notes on what worked, what didn't work, and what you would do differently. So you've got your seeds. It's time now to seed start. We're going to be doing this more in kind of early mid-summer for North Central, and then South Florida or my 10Bs, it's going to kind of be, think more August, late August, September. You can still start them in September time period. And really what we're trying to have happen is the temperature come down just a tiny bit. Now, these seedlings, you're gonna wanna keep them protected. And I do have a video that talks you through kind of the 7 mistakes to watch out for, especially at this time of year, because when it comes to seedlings, putting them outside so that they can harden off, it's a really challenging time of year for baby plants. And that's because we're gonna have monsoon rains that will just absolutely smash them. I used to call it like the Hulk smash. They just, and these baby seedlings die down. So think about not only getting those seeds, getting your seed trays, getting your potting mix, your seed starting potting mix specifically, but also where are you gonna put these plants so they don't get totally trashed by the rain, because it does happen. I've had many years I've lost seedlings to the smashing rains or them just getting overwatered because 6 inches of rain just like nonstop. Yes. It all happens at this time of year, but we can turn it around. And worse come worse is we've actually lost seedlings due to hurricanes too. So there's a lot of tricky things to starting seeds at this time of year, but it can be done and you can do it successfully. And if you get through the time period of having them small, when they're about typically 4 to 6 inches tall, you're gonna wanna up pot them. So make sure that you have not only seed starting trays and seed starting mix, but also have larger trays to up pot them into, whether they're gonna be 4 inchers or 1 gallon pots or half-gallon pots, so that before you move them out into the garden, you're gonna wanna make sure that you can protect these plants a little bit more, because there is still so much pest pressure. There's a lot of bugs that are gonna wanna eat them. And I'm okay with bugs eating my plants, but even in the butterfly gardening world, I protect those plants until they're pretty big, because I know any caterpillar, any little bug can just, you know, eat them to death when they're this big. So do have them in pots and prepare for transplanting. But when we get to mid-late summer, you're gonna be moving these out into the garden. So some things to think about is, if you're gonna have beds, do you need to top off your beds with any soil? Do you need to do any chop and drop to add fertilization? Do you just need to add some fertilizer or compost to the top of it? I wouldn't do it until like you're a week or so out from planting things, because you don't want everything to be there and just like prime for all the seeds that might come from the air, because they do at this time of year, make their way in the beds and they eat up all the nutrition and start taking off before you get the plants that you actually want in them. So those are some things to think about: weeding, fertilizing, and of course, topping off the beds. Mosquitoes, don't forget, wear bug protection and sunscreen at this time of year, because it's hot, it's humid, sun's gonna burn you, and the mosquitoes are definitely gonna bite you, along with sand fleas, which are totally getting me on my ankles right now. But we're pushing through because we need to talk about hot weather crops. Hot weather crops, let's remember things like your roselles, your yard-long beans, your Seminole pumpkins, Everglades tomatoes, okra, he's right there behind me, sweet potatoes, cranberry hibiscus, I forget who else, gingers, turmerics, all sorts of tropical plants. That's what the hot weather crops are. Now, at this time of year, we're not tending to add anything new, though in the month of June and July, you still can be doing hot weather crops, especially in Central and South Florida, North Florida. I would recommend you start to kind of let it go. But the one crop that I would say that if you're considering, you should do sweet potatoes. Look at my sweet potato. It's going crazy. It's going nutty. But with sweet potatoes, especially, you could do this one in containers, so that way you don't eat up space in the beds that you're going to be using shortly. So let's talk about what we should be doing with these ones. So one, in the summertime, we need to be keeping our eye out for harvest. So yard-long beans should be coming in. You may have some Seminole pumpkins that are ready to be harvested, Everglades tomatoes. Yes, some of your roselles, depending on when you planted them, if you planted them very early in the season, so like you did them more in the Februarys, which I think is the earliest that anyone could have planted them, you may be starting to have a harvest. The other thing for this time of year, especially for my taller plants, it wouldn't be unusual for things like your roselle, your okra, your cranberry hibiscus, with the storms that are going to come in. That's just normal. They can tend to start to get knocked over, so get prepped to just stake them back up. If they get broken branches, I know that's like can be a problem with the cranberry hibiscus and the roselle, like this one. Don't worry, you can prune them. So if you get a broken branch, don't mourn anything, just trim it back and it'll keep going, because this is basically a giant hibiscus shrub. When it comes to things like your vining plants and the 4 main vining plants. So loofahs, those are gonna go strong throughout the summer. Just keep on top of the trellising, and also keep an eye out. Remember, when it comes to loofahs and harvesting, you want them kind of when they're 1 foot or less if you're gonna eat them, or you wanna get them to a dry state if you're gonna use them more like a sponge. When it comes to things like your yard-long beans, just stay on top of the harvest. And at this time of year, we're gonna see long-tailed skippers start to pick up in their populations and start to eat and nibble at the leaves. Long-tailed skippers are a native butterfly type bug that's here in the state. And when it comes to those tropical yard-long beans, a nibbling here and there isn't gonna hurt them. So I wouldn't be stressing out if you see long-tailed skipper caterpillars on there. It's not gonna really hurt the plant. And long-tailed skippers are really cute. They tend to move really fast. If you've seen something move and you kind of think it looks like a moth, but it kind of has blue on it, that's the long-tailed skipper. That's kind of some of the care and maintenance I would be thinking about. Okras, remember, stay on top of your harvest. Again, you kind of want them on the smaller side. When they're really tiny babies, just eat them fresh. I really like them. But if you want to wait till they get a little bit bigger, the big thing is you want to get them before they start getting hard and woody, because then they're not edible or choppable really. So stay on top of getting that harvest early, whether you're going to pickle it, fry it, put it in a gumbo, whatever you're going to do with it. Or like me, I will just tend to eat them fresh out in the garden. And I find them really satisfying chomping on them in this kind of weather. It's a very satisfying crop. Very satisfying crop to try at this time of year when you're outside and you're dehydrated. Who else am I missing? Oh, and then our two hot weather crops that are going to start to look potentially sad are going to be our Everglades tomatoes and our Seminole pumpkins. They do not like having the full intense sun. So while they're a hot weather crop, they kind of move into more of a semi-shade plant at this time of year. And I know someone's going to be like, but I thought tomatoes and Everglades tomatoes. I have seen this, and I have really good examples in past years, if you watch some of my old videos, of how you will see all the stress signals on the Everglades tomatoes on the outside of the trellis. But if you come under where it's semi-shade, the leaves look healthy, they're producing fruit. So it's not unusual. Get shade cloth or propagate them and move them into another area. Or goodness gracious, you can just let them go at this time of year. I've done it too. Seminole pumpkins, because they're a vine, you can just start moving them towards shadier locations. The leaves will bounce back. They'll look really sad in the direct sunlight and with all the moisture in the air, but just start moving them towards those semi-shade areas. They'll bounce back, and as we head towards the end of summer, you're gonna really see them bounce back, and then late summer into early fall, you'll start to see them flower again and start producing. Which reminds me, I need to figure out where I'm gonna try to do Seminole pumpkins back here this year, so I need to add that to my propagation list, along with, I totally forgot watermelon. This was a big discussion the other day in our members meetup, and what we talked about was, what was the recommended type? I'm flipping back to my notes because I took a lot, because I definitely need to do watermelon. Sugar baby, that was what was recommended. Has anyone else done watermelon? I really do need recommendations. I've never really had interest in growing watermelon, but my youngest, he tried watermelon for the first time. He saw the seeds in it and he was like, Mom, can you grow them? It's totally the wrong time of year, but because it is a warm weather crop, I can add it to my garden, and I promised him I would. So I'm definitely going to be trying sugar baby watermelons. If you have any other types to make my little guy happy, I would really appreciate it. And I'm also going to be doing some Seminole pumpkins back here, which you can start in the summertime and add to your semi-shade areas. I'm going to start mine more on that side of the garden, which gets a lot more shade than this side of the garden, which is why I put my hottest of hot weather crops over here. So I figured I'm gonna start the Seminole pumpkins back on that side and let them kind of run around. And then as the sun starts to shift and it gets less intense, I'll let it grow this way. Yes, someone's gonna be thinking it. So I can start Seminole pumpkins like I would a warm weather crop. Yes. I can do Everglades tomatoes like a warm weather crop. Yes. And any other the hot weather crops that you may want to consider starting it this year, if I wouldn't put them in the beds, would be sweet potatoes. I would consider starting things like gingers and turmerics, but I would do them in pots. And there's a reason why, which we'll get into in a second, which is that these crops, while they're gonna go all through the summer and you probably won't remove them until fall or early winter, the thing is that usually these pair really well with your cold weather crops. And yes, we're gonna start talking cold weather crops. Are you serious? Yes. So you know what's right above you guys right now? Let me just see. There's just a sunflower just hanging out above you guys. Sorry, I'm trying to wait for my neighbors' lawn guys to be done because they're like right next to us doing whatever they're doing. Okay, let's talk cold weather crops. Can you believe it? We're already thinking and talking about cold weather crops. That feels a little crazy, but it is that time of year. Now, early in the summer, if you haven't removed your cold weather crops, wow, amazing. But if you're just holding on to them and letting them linger, I mean, you should just let them go. I have a little bit left of cold weather crops, and it's all root crops, which is beets, which are in a semi-shade, and carrots, but my carrots are starting to bolt. My beets are definitely ready to go, so we're gonna do another round of big harvest for me. So if you haven't let it go, though I know some people were saying that they cut back their broccolis and they're already having leaves, and actually one of my kales that I still have left, I cut it back, but not low enough. It's actually putting on new leaves and it looks really healthy. It didn't actually look that unhealthy, but it's good to know they're bouncing back. So you may have some of them bouncing back. But something to consider is if you want to start fresh, you know, like you can just get them out. More importantly is, did you start tracking what worked, what didn't, and what would you do differently? Did you put it in your notebook? Are you putting it in your planner? Because what we need to start thinking about is, what crops do you want to grow? What varieties do you want to grow? Do you want to grow them in a different location in your garden? This is the time, because what we're going to start doing now is ordering seeds, because the timing, the way it's going to end up working out is most of your hot weather crops are going to be done right as we're about to seed start and transplant our cold weather crops. I know. So for seed starting, it's really going to be very late summer that North Florida and Central Florida are going to be considering doing this. So North Florida, consider late August, early September. And then of course my area, Central Florida, we're gonna definitely be doing it in September. South Florida, you're gonna be more October, but that's because you're gonna end up having like a little bit longer warm season. You guys stay warmer and you have a very, it's kind of like the North and the South, you guys tend to be the reverse, which is the North tends to have a longer cold weather season and warm season and struggles to do more of the hot weather crops, and they have a smaller window. On the flip side, South Florida, you have really long hot weather season, a really long warm weather season, and a very small window to get those cold weather crops. And I'm sorry if that's a bummer to hear. You could always move. I mean, that's an option. Easier said than done though. But that's kind of what's gonna happen, is that as we get to that tail end of the August and September, we're really starting those things. And the things that we're gonna think about starting first are gonna be more of those root crops, the carrots, the onions, and then we'll move into things like the brassicas, broccoli, cauliflower, kales, Brussel sprouts. I'm probably missing one of them, but those things. And then of course your lettuces are kind of on the tail end because they're the most susceptible, but they're also the fastest to harvest. So hooray. But let's talk varieties. Who do we want to grow? Who are we thinking about? And one of the first ones that I'm going to be focused on starting is going to be onions. Onions, onions, onions. We buy and eat a lot of onions. Not by themselves, but they're in lots of things. And if you eat a lot of onions, you should consider growing them. And when it comes to varieties, it's all about Texas. I hate saying that as a Floridian, but it's true. They seem to be really good at coming up with varieties of onions that work down here. Now, when you're looking for onions, you're gonna think about short days, not long days. And while our days are very hot and humid and sunny, our days are short. When you think long days, think about like if you grew up north, right? The days would get really long. The sun comes up not like what, 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning. I don't know. I didn't grow up there, but like, you know, like it comes up really early in the day in the summer and it goes down really late. It's like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. and it hasn't even set yet. My husband tells me these things. He grew up very far north. But here in Florida, our days stay pretty even. We get about 8 sunshine hours pretty much all year. But the difference also is not only that in summer, our days don't get very long. Onions you're growing in the winter time. So our days, even though they don't change in length that much, they're shorter in the winter time and they're shorter than our not very long summer days. So you're going to be doing short day onions. So whatever variety you pick, look at those. Also look for varieties that come out of Texas. Southern Texas seems to have a lot of things going really well that when you move those onions over here, they work well. The type I'm going to be doing again this year is going to be Texas granos. There's a variety of it called 1015 sweet onions or 1015 granos. You usually can pick up those little starts at the Home Depots and Lowe's. I tend not to see them in fall or summer. I usually see them in winter heading into spring or early spring. But if you're at the Home Depots, Lowe's, if you see 1015Y sweet onions, that's the type I'm talking about. And I have done those multiple years in a row and they have worked very successfully. Now when it comes to seed starting, I'm doing Texas granos. So it's kind of that, I'm a sweet onion girl. If you grow red onions or white onions, I just don't tend to do that. We use so many yellow onions in our household. It's just like, I can't grow enough of them. I just can't. And this year, I know I'm going to be doing things differently. See, I'm not just telling you, it's me too. One of the things I need to do differently is this year I planted my beets on the outer part of the row and then I put the onions behind them. I totally needed to flip that because my beets in general kind of shaded out my onions. So I want to put onions on the whatever side that the sun's going to hit directly first and longest. That's going to be successful for me. So I'm adding on to my list. We are definitely doing the Texas granos. I got mine from Southern Exposure. I'm sure there's other places that sell them. If you know one, definitely let us know. And I'm going to be starting those ones. I have started them directly in ground before and I have started them in seed trays. I think I did transplant them up front. So I did do well. This year was kind of weird. Like I started to forget what I did because I started everything with a game plan, and then we had 2 hurricanes that, you know, you all heard. I evacuated, we flooded, not into my house, thank goodness. But our neighborhood flooded twice. Many of my neighbors' houses flooded. And so everything got kind of topsy-turvy, and then I kind of reset my plan because I started really late, because I think by the time everything settled, it was like late November. And I was just like, whatever, we're gonna just try to figure it out. So my game plan got very weird, which is why I sometimes forget what it is I actually ended up doing, because I had to adjust a lot. But this year, I'm gonna put a lot of effort into getting lots of onions started, because we want onions. We want onions. Another one that was recommended to me was Granix Hybrid. It is a Texas Grano and something hybrid. It's still in the sweet onion family. It's still out of Texas. Dang it, Texas. You got a stronghold on us. So Brassicas is a really fun grouping of plants. They all come and originate many years ago from Italy. Hey, my ancestors are from there. And so Brassicas are all one plant that was grown in many different ways to focus on different things. When they wanted lots of leaves from the plant, you got kale. If you wanted the flowers to bud but not pop open, that was broccoli. If you wanted it to have one big giant flower, cabbage. Lots of flowers that got kind of big, Brussel sprouts. And then if you wanted the flowers to actually start opening up, cauliflower. So they're all just one plant, historically speaking. But if you want to grow any of those, which ones would you grow? If you want to do kale, lanceolato, dino kale. I haven't even tried any other varieties because this one works so well here. So if you want kale, you want to use those spinach green alternatives, lanceolato kale, it's for the win. For me, I'm going to still keep growing this one, but I don't need as many. That's what very clearly, I need probably one solid plant. So I got to figure out how I'm going to integrate that for the winter time. The year before, I think I did 5. This year I did 4, and I'm going to tell you it was still too much, so I'm going to get down to 1. That's all about all I need for our family. When it comes to broccoli, I've done DeChicos, which did well. Waltham 29s did better, and both of those you can get from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. I know a lot of people have had good success with both those varieties. Also, you know, Lieutenant broccoli, I had some weird issues with it once before, but I am a fan of, like, sometimes just go to the store and buy when they have the 6-cell tray. I wouldn't buy it as the single plant, but you can just buy the thing that's listed as broccoli at the Home Depot and Lowe's. Those have worked really well, and I've gotten nice giant heads from them. Another one that worked really well that was just a Home Depot Lowe's one was cabbage. What type of cabbage it is, I have no idea. It's whatever Bonnie puts in the 6-cell tray. It was 100% worth the money. It was $6 for 6 plants, and I got 28 pounds of wonderful cabbage. We really had, we gave away 2 cabbage heads, and we still had a hard time getting through it all, but we got some new dishes that Ben and I really liked that we tried right when we were almost out of it, and that was creating cabbage steaks. Have any of y'all had a cabbage steak before? With a really good hummus tahini sauce. It was so yummy. Paired with roasted beets. That was for the win. So Ben was definitely like, yes, cabbage. So I got to keep my eye out later, probably in fall, for cabbage. But if you have a variety of cabbage, let me know. Cauliflower, I don't think I've ever tried growing cauliflower before, but one of the members did, and they recommended snowball cauliflower. And from Baker's Creek, she says she doesn't really buy from Baker's Creek anymore, which I love this. She doesn't even really buy from there anymore because Southern Exposure is for the win in general. But there's one thing she still buys from Baker Creek because it works so well, and it was Rover cauliflower. So I might try Rover cauliflower. Let me add that to the list. We're propagating it. We're propagating Rover cauliflower. I want to try it. And actually, Wendy, who I think it was Wendy, right? Who recommended this. One of the cool things about all of her recommendations, I probably should make a separate list, is she does all of her stuff in containers. So we love that because not everyone has all the space and everything she does, and she was the one who recommended this. So yay for the win for container gardening. Brussels sprouts, I don't think I've ever tried growing Brussels sprouts, so I have no recommendation for it. It is the right time of year when I tell you guys in the monthly garden guides it's time for it, go for it. Yes, I'm literally chasing the shade around my garden. Okay, so behind me we got beets. So let's talk about some of those, the 3 root crops that you might grow during the late summer, early fall time period, and you're gonna definitely wanna get seeds for it, and that's gonna be beets, radishes, and carrots. Carrots, y'all know what I'm gonna tell you. It's the one that hands down has worked for me year after year after year, and that is, I think it's Ferry Morris brand, and it's short and sweet carrots. They're so easy to grow. I get so many. When you see carrots in videos, that's what I'm growing. So that's a Home Depot, Lowe's, Target, Walmart kind of seed packets, / you can get them online. So I would definitely recommend those for the carrots. I have done rainbow carrots. That's more because my kids like the idea of it, not because they eat any of them. And I haven't noticed they produce that great, but I don't usually tend to focus on those pots. But short and sweet, hands down, works amazing. I know there's other ones that are like Nantes are another one that's really, and I feel like there's one with a D. You guys can remind me what that one is. I can't remember because I'm just a short and sweet girl. They're like a nice size. They're not crazy long. They work really well here and they last. I mean, we're late into June and they're still in the beds. They're just starting to bolt now and I gotta just like bite the bullet and get them all out. I was trying to slowly pull them, but we're done. Just gotta pull them all. Beets, I'm about Detroit Reds. They work really well. I don't think I've ever tried another variety. I've used Southern Exposure seeds. I've used Burpee seeds and Fairy Moore seeds, but I tend to focus on Southern Exposure because the germination rate tends to be very high, 95 to 98%. And if you're not familiar with germination rate, it means if I planted 100 seeds, 98 of them will pop up, versus Fairy Morse and Burpee tends to be lower. I get less per 100 if I plant it. I don't plant 100, well, maybe I planted 100, I don't know. I'm definitely ordering more of those. And radishes, I bought radish seeds. I honestly don't, oh, something with the lady. I'm so sorry. I'll put it up on the screen, whatever I've done before. They worked. Ben hates radishes, so that was what I really learned from growing radishes. My neighbor, Mr. Cliff, likes them, so I'll just hand them off to him. And they had really cute pale flowers. But that's kind of my radish stuff. I would love to hear if you did radishes, which ones did you like and who do you buy your seed packets from? Okay, we've hit a lot of different varieties, but there's one I haven't mentioned and I know y'all are probably gonna grow it, and that's gonna be lettuce. And lettuce can be so easy to grow if you do the right timing and you get the right varieties. And hands down, there are kind of two varieties that I'm gonna be planting and I would recommend for you. One, Butter Crunch. You see those big, beautiful green heads of lettuce in my garden? That's Butter Crunch. I get them from, I gotten the seeds from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, but I've also just grabbed Butter Crunch lettuce from like the Home Depot Loaves, and those have worked out really, really well. I'm not gonna be starting these until we're probably very end of summer or not very, very early fall. So September, October for my area, but I am gonna go ahead and get my seeds all ordered. This is also one that, yes, I've grabbed I think I already said this. You can grab from the store. If you get a 6-cell tray, that's totally worth it. Yes, they have grown really well. The second type, y'all have seen it. I know a lot of people were like, those look so beautiful. I've had friends come over and be like, whoa, what is that red lettuce? I handed out lettuce to neighbors and family friends and family, and everyone raved not only about my Butter Crunch, but the mix that I did, because the red lettuce I did was a outrageous, and that one's from Southern Exposure, and it is a romaine type lettuce. And those two combined together made a beautifully crunchy, healthy, nutritious, got the vitamin K with the green, the vitamin A with the red. It looked great. So if earlier this year you were like, what are those beautiful red lettuces? That's where it is. That's what it was from. Others that I would definitely recommend is, yes, romaine lettuces in general do really well. Bib lettuces do really well. I have historically, there are videos from years ago when you see the lettuces in the ground, those are just romaine lettuce, red romaine and white romaine lettuces that I bought from Home Depot, Lowe's. They look great, they performed great. It's all about timing. Those varieties did really, really well for me. And I actually, in a pinch this year, because I do a children's garden at my kids' school, is we started the garden so late and I grabbed a tray of red lettuces, the red romaines from Lowe's, and they performed amazingly. They didn't even bolt, and we were all the way at the end of April, and that garden is like full sun. There ain't no shade, but they look great. And we were able to cut it all up and send it home with actually the teacher volunteers who helped me throughout the whole season. So those can work. And that's what I would say is, if you are gonna do red, put it in your sunnier locations, and the greens can go into the places that may get a little bit more shade. The reds will do best if they're in like the sunnier parts. That's what I figured. That's what I figured out from last year, which the reason I was able to figure that is because I take notes. Do you take notes? This is why we take notes. It's because we figure these things out. We notice like, ooh, it gets a little sunnier here and those plants look cuter. So consider taking your notes. Ones is black seeded lettuce and oak leaf hybrid lettuce are great ones. Those are more like loose leaf lettuces. You can pick a few leaves. Though I actually do that with Butter Crunches and romaines too. I don't treat them as, sometimes I treat them as head lettuces, but sometimes I treat them like loose leaves. You can kind of go either way, but you have options. And I have seen things like the oak leaf lettuce at the Home Depot's, Lowe's in those 6 trays. I don't tend to see them at this time of year. It's always in late winter and spring is when we tend to see them. So it may not be a really good location, but if you talk to the ordering manager, sometimes they will order stuff. Each location can be different. So just something to think about if you want kind of an easier start. And always check out your local nurseries because they do things differently than the Home Depots and Lowe's. I'm not committed or married to you guys going to Home Depot or Lowe's. I just give you those recommendations mostly because I know it's easy for everyone to access in North, Central, and South Florida. But always check out your local ones because you'll find more varieties. You'll find things that are done better and in season more than you will oftentimes with Home Depot and Lowe's. So, you know. And if you have someone that you think is doing an awesome job, like throw them down in the comments. Let's hype them up. You know, I'm a big fan of local nurseries, especially when it comes to my native plants. I'm all about my big 3, which is Sweet Bay on the south side of the bay, Wilcox on the west side, and then on the north side, Little Red Wagon. So I'm a big fan of local nurseries, and I recommend you check out your local nurseries too. I just can't say what they're gonna have because I don't know. I'm not at your local nursery. Okay, so I'm trying to run through my list of things to think about. And with cold weather crops, because you tend to pair them, or in the future, you'll tend to pair them with your hot weather crops, you may have something that's going on that you may not notice until it's a little too late. And that is you're gonna wanna check your irrigation for both your warm weather crop and your cold weather crop locations, because your hot weather crops, tend to have bigger root systems. And so even though we just are coming out of the drought, in the summertime it's raining a lot. So if you start having problems with your sprinkler system or your drip irrigation system, you may not notice because you get in 3, 4, 5, 10 inches of rain. Who the heck knows if that thing's running? So you definitely will, as you get ready to think about it's time to transplant, move stuff out, definitely run through and recheck all your irrigation. Don't turn it on in the summer, but check it so that once you have plants all in place and the storms start to die down as we hit late summer and into fall, you're not taken by surprise when all your plants that you put so much time into start dying. So definitely check those late summer just to make sure everything looks good. The other thing is that cold weather crops, depending on how you did everything, if you've been doing a cover crop, you're going to definitely want to make sure you top off the beds and add any compost fertilizing into those areas, and of course weed them before you get ready to transplant. That probably can wait until later in the summer, so you don't have to do too much out in the heat and the sun, but something definitely to consider doing as you're going around your garden and just keeping an eye on things. Okay, let's talk flowers. Flowers, I know we spent so much time on food, you might think she's not going to talk about flowers. She's talking about flowers. She loves flowers. The butterflies love the flowers. The bees love the flowers. And I love helping wildlife. And I've been really getting into Florida friendlies this summer. But a lot of what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk a little bit about Florida friendly. We're going to talk a lot about Florida native and what you should be thinking about for the summertime. So when it comes to summertime, it's all about adding, if you're going to do transplants, hot weather flowers. So that's going to be everything from things like sun patience and coreopsis, rudbeckias and pentas, tropical sage, which is a native one, swamp milkweeds, goldenrods, liatrices, ironweeds, sunflowers, and narrow leaf yellow top, which is going to be on the other side of my garden. But you're going to start seeing it in videos lately, and every time people start seeing this flower, y'all start asking me, what is that? It's narrow leaf yellow top. It kind of hangs out just like a green bushy thing, and then we hit summertime and then it starts really getting going until we get to midsummer, and then it's just like yellow, and it's great. So if you're considering doing some of these plants, you can go ahead and add them. A lot of them like the heat, the sun, and all the good stuff. Now me, one of the things I'm going to be thinking about this summer is I'm super excited. I think I'm going to start working on learning and getting better at starting Florida native wildflowers by seed. That's one of my skills that I'm working on. And that's actually one of the things I try to do every year is I try to every 6 months figure out what skill I'm going to work on. So a couple years ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago, I was very honest about like, I'm not very good at vegetables. They're too fussy. And so one of the skills I worked on was getting better at vegetables by focusing on transplants. And then I focused on getting better at seed starting, which was a couple years ago. That was like a really big focus of mine was seed starting. This early year has been more about getting more comfortable with pruning vegetables, pruning flowers, and knowing that I can do it in a way that the plants, they'll be okay. They'll be okay. I'm also getting used to with just like letting things go and relocating. All the people who've been in the flower video who saw I pulled Coreopsis out and then I revived them and then I moved them up front. I think more of that was in the memberships, whichever. I have skills. And I'm finally feeling comfortable that I want to start trying growing wildflowers from seed in trays. And I'm excited to do that because one of the things you guys often hear me talk about is that getting seeds for native wildflowers, you got to be really careful. But there is one reliable source, and that is the Florida Wildflower Cooperative. It is people who grow native plants, and it works to coordinate selling seeds. So these are reliable native seeds. Now, watch out, not everything on the website is native. 90% of it, 95% of it is, but just double check. There are a few plants that aren't native on there. And if we were thinking about starting stuff by seed, it might be a little bit late in the season, but whatever, I'm still gonna try it, is you could be doing things like your milkweeds. I love monarch butterflies. I love monarch caterpillars. My kids love monarch caterpillars. And two of the types of native seeds we could be trying to do right now, though with lots of protection, because if they sprout and we do it right, a caterpillar could eat them in like 5 seconds. So swamp milkweed, this is our pink swamp milkweed. It is a pale pink. So whenever you see those dark, rich pink ones, those are not native to here. They are native to the United States, but they're not native to here. Ours are all very pale pink, like almost edging into white. Swamp milkweed. The other one is they do have butterfly weed seeds. So even though when you go to the Home Depots and Lowe's and it says butterfly weed and it's 100% not butterfly weed, that is tropical milkweed or scarlet milkweed, that they're all the same plant. They just keep naming it different things right now because I think there's too much controversy around those. So whatever. Long story short is you could buy butterfly weed seeds, and kind of the difference is if it's a little bit wetter location, go swamp milkweed. If it's a little bit drier, try butterfly weed. And those have those really pretty orange flowers. So I have gotten seed packets for butterfly weed so far. I haven't gotten them for swamp milkweed though. The next thing that you should consider starting, and this will be a good time of year, is Liatris, also known as, like, we got blazing star. There's a lot of different types of native Liatrises. I think they have at least one type that you could grow from there. And those are more of a September, October bloomer, not necessarily a summer bloomer, but get them started now so that you can have them for a little bit later this year. One that it does bloom kind of on and off throughout the year. I know when I've had some discussions with people, they're like, oh, it blooms. But I always call it a summer bloomer because it's big bloom. Like, it can have flowers here and there, but like when it goes like, whoa, is late summer, is goldenrods. And there are so many native, I think there's 20 something native types of goldenrod to the state of Florida. I have grown everything from seaside and sweet goldenrod in my garden. I still have sweet goldenrod in my garden. I no longer have seaside because it's a little bit too big. It gets really tall. If you've got the space for it, it's beautiful. But if you don't have the space for it, try Juan goldenrod, Chapman's goldenrod, sweet goldenrod. Those kind of max out at about 5 feet, 6 feet. You know what I'm saying? Like, seaside gets like 12 feet. Like, it's big. So those would be the things to think about. And goldenrod is, sun's in my eyes. Oh, we're moving. We're chasing the shade. Okay. Goldenrod's a great one if you're not familiar with it. It's got these beautiful long wands. It puts out yellow flowers. Its seeds feed the birds. The bees love it. The bees love it. Honeybee people, those aren't native to Florida, but people who are into honeybees, especially I think in Europe, because it's actually invasive over in Europe. It's native here. They use goldenrods to feed their honeybees over there. So if you have honeybees, do the goldenrods. But if you just like wildlife, get goldenrod. Mr. Cliff, he has propagated some of my goldenrod over into his garden and he just loves it. So consider adding goldenrods. Ironweeds. Ironweed is definitely a middle of the summer, kind of July plant. And this one, hummingbirds, butterflies. It is a high nectar plant. You can get both the tall one I saw on the website and the middle-sized one. And a lot of these plants that I'm recommending, your local native nursery carries them. Goldenrod, Liatrises, ironweeds, they will typically have them. So there's a shorter ironweed. I have typically grown giant ironweed, which gets a bit taller. This one's definitely in bloom in the summer. Blue curls, I don't think they had seeds on the website, but blue curls is really popular at this time of year because it does bloom and it's blue and it's got cute little curls. Tropical sage, I'm all about it. I don't need to buy any seeds. I got probably enough in my yard. I could figure it out. But another one that I'm going to really focus on is rudbeckias, especially Rudbeckia hirata, which is Rudbeckia hirata is black-eyed Susans, and they do have a black-eyed Susan on the website. Rudbeckia fulgida is the one I prefer because that one will bloom a lot of the year. I may have to just go buy a plant from Sweet Bay, which is on the south side of the Tampa Bay. But I'm definitely going to be adding more rudbeckias into my front garden where I have kind of a big open space. You guys have seen lately, or you will see in videos lately, I have a lot of Coreopsis in bloom of our native type, not that type, but it's just my favorite. I have more Coreopsis seeds so I can keep the blooms coming throughout the summer. I'm a big fan of that. And I love Coreopsis Leavenworthy. It's my favorite. So consider adding that one. And the one you're gonna all see through the summer, narrow leaf yellow top, is gonna go really big soon. And all of these feed butterflies, and that's one of the things, if you do have the planter, there is a chart in the front that kind of gives you an idea of what supports bees, what supports butterflies and birds and hummingbirds, because I know lots of people like to do hummingbirds too. So things to think of. I'm definitely going to be doing more seed starting, and I will try to take you guys along as much as I can on the journey once I kind of figure some stuff out. Okay, let's talk more tips when it comes to flowers. I'm trying to give you a position so you guys can actually see my tree that's in bloom. It's very pretty. It's my golden shower tree. And there you can see my narrow leaf yellow top is just starting to come into bloom. This is not how good it'll get. It'll get a lot prettier soon. Okay, so some other things to think about when it comes to your plants this summer, with specifically flowers, is if any of them are host plants, which if you buy them from a native nursery, they will definitely tell you, is you'll want to give them protection for a good few weeks before you just put them out in the garden, because caterpillars, wow, they can eat a lot in a day, and they may destroy the plant that you just bought or have finally released out into the wild. So butterflies are very active at this time of year. There's a lot of them at this time of year. So definitely give your plant a fighting chance to get going. The other thing is that all these high nectar type, ooh, I think that's a long-tailed skipper right there. But a lot of these plants that I've recommended, like ironweeds and tropical sages and all that stuff, they're all high nectar plants, which will be good for bees, butterflies, depending on the shape, hummingbirds too. So you can get a lot of wildlife in over the summer, and they will appreciate you because there's gonna be a lot of food for these wildlife. I don't know, they're just so pretty and I like them, and it's a good time of year to have them. So you can hit the easy button. While you can plant some of the stuff I'm recommending earlier in the year, it really takes off at this time of year, and it can kind of just feel like you make a lot more progress faster than you do at other times of year. And another thing that's flowers but not flowers is you might want to consider adding lawn alternatives at this time of year. If you're over your grass, if you have an infestation, I think it's the Japanese beetle, those little grubs that get underground, they eat the total grass root system, maybe time to consider flipping your garden to a lawn alternative. My backyard, I don't know if you guys saw it behind me as I was talking, but it probably looked like it was just a normal lawn. That was all frog fruit. Almost all of it's frog fruit. There's a little water hyssop in there and a little blue-eyed grass, which is not a grass, but it's a native plant. But all three of those native plants are basically creating a beautiful blanket back there that is more resilient to grubs that get in the ground and eat their root systems. And also it takes less water, plus they can absorb a lot of water because they're native and they're used to the crazy monsoon seasons. Keep an eye out or look up on my channel. I do have videos that dig deeper into lawn alternatives, but this might be the time of year you start thinking about it because you're just getting over mowing the lawn or fussing at your grass, or you're tired of paying the people for dumping the fertilizers and all the stuff on it. And that's one of the other things, is they don't need to be fertilized. So I know a lot of people are in fertilizer bans right now at this time of year, which is great because that helps protect our stormwater systems. But it can also lead to, you know, the grass looking not so cute. But things like frog fruit, water hyssop, sunshine mimosa, all these brown savory that I've been testing up front, they don't need fertilizer. They like Florida's sandy soil, so they just do their thing. Now here's kind of my other tips section and some final thoughts of the things that you should be thinking about throughout the summer. Summer, for when it comes to vegetable season, is kind of the breaking point between the end and the beginning. But when it comes to native plants and tropicals, things like bananas and mulberries, you're actually in prime season. So having a clear vision in your head of like what you should be doing and when you should be doing it for each type of thing can be really helpful. So vegetable season, it's all about putting the bed to rest, getting seeds, removing weeds, topping it off, adding fertilization back in through compost or teas or chop and drop, whichever way you want to do it. and prepping to move those new plants in. That's what summer is about for vegetable season. When it comes to our flower season, we're in prime time. So you could be adding more, but you also want to be thinking about pruning. You could also, if you see some areas are crowded, feel free to pull some out and move them to another location and spread all of it around. If you focus on native plants, you won't need to worry about fertilizing. Really, the big thing at this time of year when my flower beds, it's all about suppressing weeds, because just as much as my natives want to take off, so do all the weeds too, and it's super annoying. So consider adding things like pine straw mulch or pine bark mulch, just to keep the bad guys, the weeds that we don't want, out of our garden. Another tip, remember, whether you're growing vegetables, you're growing fruiting trees, or you're growing flowers, we are heading into the rainy season and we're hitting the point where you just turn your sprinklers off. If you're getting regular rain, you've gotten it 10 days in a row, please turn your sprinklers off. You don't need it. And actually this will be a benefit, because whether you're growing natives, fruit trees, or vegetables, you're gonna start having mold problems if you're overwatering too much. So start pulling back to 1 time a week and then just totally shutting it off all through the summer. It's very rare that you would need to turn it back on. It has happened before, but in general, they can be turned off for the summer. And final tip, whether you're growing food or flowers, the way that you're gonna continue to see your garden get better and better is not only to make a plan. You gotta go and do that plan, but also track your plan. What worked, what didn't, and what would you do differently? And that's how you're gonna keep taking your garden to the next level so that you can have the garden of your dreams. And if you're looking for even more summer tips, go ahead and check out this video right here. And if you wanna grab the planner, go ahead and grab it right here. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye.